Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to the Red Riding Hood YouTube swap on behalf of the Facebook group Live Art Journaling and Self-Development. Narrative is one of the most important ways we connect to each other, and the year of 2021 is a year where connection has become so very important. Several YouTube artists have come together to celebrate the arrival of 5,000 members to the Facebook community, and we encourage you to visit each video and show your encouragement to the artists by liking and subscribing. We also invite you to become part of this very supportive creative community that is live art journaling and self-development. And you will find all the details to that in the description box below. So today we are looking at Red Riding Hood, one of my favorite stories from childhood, one of my favorite stories to read as a teacher at school. I'm very fond of the fractured fairy tale versions, if you've never seen those, of this story, and Hoodwinked is one of my favorite kids videos. So it's all about the story of Red Riding Hood from 4 different perspectives, which is wonderful. So I thought to honour the narrative of this, I've got some old book text that I've just glued down using matte gel medium onto my art journal page. And once I've done that, I then just put some gesso over the top and buff the rest of it off. So I get this sort of softer book text in the background. So the text isn't necessarily the focus, it's just part of the background, just to remind us that this is all part of a story, part of a narrative. Now, as you can see, I've broken my right wrist, so I'm doing this all left-handed, which is my non-dominant hand. I'm usually right-handed, so this is why everything's looking slightly awkward and it takes me a little bit longer to do things. Stenciling has been interesting. I'm having to clip everything down. But if you're not a confident stenciler, having some paper clips or something you can hold the stencil down nice and firm while you're stenciling is good. So you'll notice on the side I've put out my paint. I chose to use a grey and a navy blue. These are Dina Wakley paints, so I used Elephant and Night mixed together to get this sort of sky blue. Not sky blue, but sort of this dusty blue-grey in the background. Next, I flipped my stencil over, so it was sideways, to get this focus tree in the foreground. So this stencil is from Stencil Girl. It's an amazing stencil, and it actually comes as a mask too, so you can actually buy both of them, which I recommend because sometimes you need the mask and sometimes you need the stencil version of it. And as you can see, I've now got this sort of forest with the trees in the background, and then I've got my focal tree in the foreground because obviously, you know, Little Red Riding Hood went into the woods and it's what she found in the woods that was important. To ground my forest, I have just used some of my extra paint to put down to the foreground, and because this stencil, to make it the way it is, I'm just painting in the little, they're called the bridges, so the little white gaps, I'm just painting them in. You don't need to do this step, it's just up to you. I quite like just having it as a tree, and obviously if you don't have this stencil, draw your own tree, trace one out, or if you're really proficient, you could drip ink down and use a straw to blow it to make sort of ethereal trees in the background. Now, I did, because again, this is my left hand and I'm not used to drawing with it, I did actually do a practice piece to sort of get my proportions right. You can see I'm going very slowly. I'm finding it difficult to hold the paper down because I have my right hand wrist is acting a bit like a doorstop at the moment. I can't really do much with it. It just sort of sits there. So I did have a piece that I could sort of trace out to get an idea of what I was doing. Now, if you're not confident in drawing this, you could certainly, you know, grab a magazine image and trace over the top. The paper I'm using is really thin note paper that I had in my collage stash, and I quite liked it because of the colour, and it's sort of crinkly paper. I just really liked it. I'm using watercolour to paint in my cape, so I've got that really dark red, and you'll notice on the inside of the cape I'm mixing in a little bit of black just so I've got this shadow, because that's the inside of her cape that I want to have that nice and dark. The pencil I used to sketch my piece out with is a Stabilo oil pencil. Now I love Stabilo oil pencils because they're water reactive, and I like it for 2 reasons when I'm sketching. First of all, if I really make a mistake, I can kind of, with enough water, just wash it away. But also, particularly if I'm doing something like this, it already, when it bleeds into the watercolor, it gives you sort of like a natural shadow with you not having to do very much to get that shadow, which I really like because I'm a bit of a lazy journalist. So if I can make life easy for myself, I will do that. Now I'm just going in with a food ball pen and drawing in some detail lines. Usually I have really sketchy lines. Because I'm using my left hand, I'm having to concentrate a little bit more to actually hold my pen and have enough pressure on the pen to make contact with the page. But it's working, so that's all good. To add some extra texture and detail into my cape, I'm going in with a red Stabilo pencil, which is the same as the black. It's water reactive, it's just obviously red, and just doing some really loose loopy patterns over the top, which I'm really loving. So really simple. Same with the shirt that I gave her. They were just lines. They are, when you see the close-up, they are not very straight. They are very wonky. The spacing's all over the place, but that's okay. And I think one of the things I've really found having to work with my non-dominant hand is I've had to let go. Not that I ever had or used perfection at all. I've always been a little bit rough and ready, but I've had to be a little bit more so rough and ready and be able to accept that this is the best that you can do with your left hand. You've done pretty well because, you know, a few weeks ago you probably would have said you couldn't have done anything with your left hand. So the fact that you're actually doing this is a huge improvement. And as I always say, you know, practice makes progress. So if you're not sure about something, just keep going, try it again, sketch it out a few times. You know, it's just paper in the end, so it's not going to be a huge deal. But if you do want to do what I did and have a bit of a template underneath to trace over, that's a really great way to go. Once I finished drawing out my face, I used a little bit of the Stabilo oil pencil to colour in her face to give her a bit of shadow, because obviously she's sort of hidden behind the hood. I decided I wanted a little bit more red on her as well, so I've added the red cheeks and lips, and also added a little bit of red into her blouse. And then I'm just going to cut this out and stick it onto my page. Now, I could have, if I wanted to, painted that straight onto my page, but because I've used acrylics, I would have had to use acrylics to paint over the top, and certainly because of my hand and the sort of style of drawing I wanted to do, I didn't think I could be as particular with paint straight onto the page that, you know, if I had a piece of paper I could cut out and I made a mistake, I could do another piece of paper in the background. So again, if you want to paint it straight onto your page, go for it. So this is a piece out of the Dina Wakley Collage Collective. And I've got some letter stamps that I'm going to use to stamp out Into the Woods, because not only does that sort of represent the story to me, but one of my favourite musicals, because I'm a big musical nut, is Stephen Sondheim's Into the Woods, and that title track Into the Woods was going through my head as I was doing this. So I've added some of that red just to sort of replicate it on the page, and I'm stamping out the letters Into the Woods, just to get, having that collage, having that mixed colour underneath just gave it a little bit of extra interest. Again, if you didn't have that, just swipe some colours, some paints onto the background, really loose and ready, just so you've got something to make your background interesting. Or you could just get a texture and colour in the letters. So, you know, use what you have got to help you out. So again, this is a bit of left-handed cutting, which has been, oh no, I'm actually using my right hand, which I really shouldn't be doing because it's a bit achy now after I did it, to cut out my letters. And then I'm going to glue them into my page. So I'm just sort of working out where I want them to go. I'm having a bit of a trial and then gluing it down, again using matte medium. I like to use matte medium to glue collage down onto my page because I can seal both underneath and over the top. So once I've sort of decided where my letters are going to go, you can see I've got a little bit of time to move it. If I'd used you know, PVA glue or something like that, it would have been stuck down pretty straight away. So having the matte medium gives me a little bit of time to move what I need to. Then I'm going in finally to highlight my letters. So this is something I do even if I'm hand lettering on a page. I like to put in some white Posca paint pen on the bottom left hand sides of all my letters. There's no rhyme or reason to why I like to choose that side. It's just I find if I've chosen one side I can be consistent with it the whole way. The very last thing I did was to put in the whites of my little girl's eyes, or Red Riding Hood's eyes, and to put in the little catchalls in her eyes as well. So this is my final piece for the Into the Woods Red Riding Hood hop. I hope you had fun watching it. I hope you have a go at doing it. Remember, if you don't have the stuff, a lot of this you could do yourself. So those trees you could draw out yourself, or use ink and blow them to make those sort of wistful trees. Use a magazine image to trace over the top, or you can get, and depends how you feel about this, some kids books, old kids books from an op shop with the story of Red Riding Hood you might like to cut out and collage onto your page as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out the description box below to see the next person in the hop. Until next time, bye for now.